Hey everyone, welcome back for another review. Today's review is going to be over the second half of the season of The Last of Us TV show for HBO Max. And this one's going to be kind of short and sweet, basically because there's not much else to say besides the fact that they did it all completely right. This show was high performing in all areas. Being a huge fan of the video game, I have nothing but good things to say about this show. It is probably one of the best adaptations I've ever seen. With the days of them adapting video games left and right, it's really a lot of them they don't do well, and a lot of people tear it apart, and just it's something that's really hard really to adapt these to something that people want to watch. And with The Last of Us, they managed to do it perfectly. I mean, I'm sure it really helped having the particular people that were involved, especially the creator of the game and the Craig Mazin, who did the Chernobyl series for HBO Max, which was another show that did really well. And just the time that they took for each episode, filming it, doing it right, setting up the scenes the way that they need to be set up, having these particular actors come in and do their thing, where just they did it all perfectly. And just so kind of jumping into that, my last video I think left off right before or right after Joel actually gets hurt at the college, and then Ellie has to take care of him to figure out what she needs to do to get them back on the road and how she can help Joel pull through this. With that follow-up episode, we got to meet the cannibals of that snow resort town. We also got Troy Baker, who played Joel in the video games, come back and play the part of James, who was the kind of sidekick for the leader of that town. The guy that they got to come in and play the leader of the cannibal town, he was fucking terrifying. And then just having him play this kind of this religious person, this priest or whatever, have him come in and do this where he's just supposed to be the all-knowing leader of this town, and he's a God-fearing man, and then just completely turn around and shock you with that scene where he slaps that girl for just questioning anything he has to say. And so we got to see one side of him where he's really trying to talk Ellie into coming back to this town and really trying to win her over, and we got to see the other side of him, which is the true side. He's a complete fucking monster, and he will do whatever it takes to survive, and he sees the cordyceps as the savior of the world. They wipe the slate clean, and he doesn't see it as the end of the world but the beginning or whatever. And so he's just willing to do whatever it takes to survive, and he has little to no sympathy for anybody. And he sees Ellie kind of similar to who he is, where he's fully aware that he is a killer, and he will do what he needs to do, and he wants to take Ellie under his wing, and just he's completely convinced that she is just like him because she's had to be so violent just to survive, and then completely turning against him and playing out that part in the game that I love so much. That was also terrifying, that escape that you had to get away from him in that burning building. They did that perfectly too, and just I've seen a lot of side-by-side shots or whatever, and just it was perfect the way they did it. And, they have to kind of cut these things down because there's a lot of stuff in between that where she escapes out of his custody and she has to make her way through the town and everything, eventually getting herself to the point where she's locked up in this burning building with this psychopath. But also, like I said, with Troy Baker coming back and playing the part of James, he got exactly what was coming to him, the same fashion that they did it in the video game, and just you got to see a whole nother side of his acting, which was just amazing because he's an amazing actor, an amazing voice actor, and just hopefully one of these days I'll get to meet him. But kind of going back to the episode, we got to see the demise of David and what Ellie had to do to him to get away from him, and then Joel tracking her down to that burning building and everything, and him really realizing what she means to him, because he addresses her as baby girl just like he did in the game, and this is where he really kind of realizes she means something to me, that he needs to get her where she needs to be. He wants to protect her and kind of probably in some ways make up for the way that he failed Sarah, because he's constantly living with these nightmares of everything, reliving that same night over and over. And then as it continues on where they're going into Salt Lake City, we get to find out that Joel actually tried to kill himself once. It was shortly after Sarah died, and he just hit that point where he didn't have anything to live for. He just believed that he couldn't go on, and he's really opening up to Ellie and bringing her in and trusting her with this information, and just wanting her to trust him too at the same time. And then they're making their way through the city and everything of Salt Lake, where they're trying to track down this hospital, and it's there that they're actually ambushed by the Fireflies. Kind of similar. I wish they would have done the whole tunnel scene from the game, but I understand logistically and time-wise that probably would have been next to impossible to do. A lot of people were actually complaining there was not enough infected in this series. That was like the one complaint that I heard. They wanted to see more infected, and I guess that's something they're promising for next season, because it has been greenlit for a second season, so I can't wait to see that. But kind of finishing up the episode, we get the kind of same play out where they take Joel in and Ellie, and they can't take Ellie off to be put under sedation and everything to go in for surgery to remove the cordyceps from her brain, so they can kind of bioengineer, or so they can kind of reverse engineer a vaccine, or what they hope to be a vaccine. Because we did actually get to see within this episode too, where we got to see the birth of Ellie played, and then her mother played by Ashley Johnson, who was the voice of Ellie from the video game. And we got to see her come in and kind of bring things full circle, starting out as Ellie, but now coming back as her mother. And we got to see actually how her immunity was actually possible, because see Ashley Johnson playing Anna, Ellie's mom. She's running away from an infected and gets cornered in this house where she's actually living with Marlene and other Fireflies to kind of make their way, because they've actually known each other for a long time. That's how Marlene actually came into possession of Ellie as a child. But going back to Ellie being born, it's actually during this that Anna actually has to fight off this infected, and during this, she's giving birth to Ellie simultaneously. She hurries up and actually cuts the umbilical cord because she thinks she can stop the infection or whatever from getting to her, but it's in this, during her birth, being bit and everything, it kind of creates, how they explain it in the show anyways, it creates signals between the cordyceps that her mom has and between what goes into Ellie. They kind of create these signals where they see each other as cordyceps. So that's why when Ellie actually gets bit, the cordyceps that invade her body already see her as existing cordyceps. And that's why she doesn't turn, and that's how it kind of mutates on her brain and everything. And so kind of flash forwarding back to when they're in the hospital, and Marlene's actually explaining to Joel how this is even possible. It leads up the same way where Joel is ready to just take her and leave, and Marlene has him marched out of the hospital. Joel takes it upon himself to kill the two soldiers that are marching him out, and just goes in this full-on firefight with all these soldiers in the hospital. And it plays out exactly how it did in the game, where he finds Ellie under sedation, ready to go into surgery, and you have the two nurses and the doctor, and he takes out the doctor and he leaves the nurses and just grabs Ellie and gets the hell out of Dodge. And one little cameo or whatever that we have for that scene, one of the nurses is actually, she was the actress who played Abby from the second one. She was the actual motion capture actress, because we have the motion capture, then we have the face model that they use. They're two completely different people, but she was actually one of the nurses, but she was actually in that. And that was just kind of one of the things that kind of snuck in there. But getting back to the episode, Joel gets out, gets the elevator, and it's down here where we see Marlene in the parking garage. They have their conversation about, what's the point? Ellie's going to end up dead one way or the other. Joel guns her down, and then we kind of see the whole drive out back to Tommy's, and him explaining to her that there's dozens of kids just like her, and it's not done them a damn bit of good, and just playing out that whole lie that he has to protect her because he didn't want to see her die. And it's kind of it's debatable that it was a selfish thing. It wasn't his choice to take her when she was probably willing to actually give up her life to create this vaccine to save mankind. But Joel takes it upon himself to save her, and just bury himself in this lie to save her and say that they couldn't do anything. They had to get out of there. The place became overrun, thus closing out the show, just like the game, where she makes him promise that everything he's saying is the truth, and he swears it is, and it's done. They're back at Tommy's. And so with that, we are greenlit for a second season. Now, quickly kind of going into this, I have not played the second game more than once because of the story. It's kind of a love-hate kind of thing. And, I really, really have tried to play that game more than once, but I cannot bring myself to do it. I have played bits and pieces of it, but I've never played it all the way through more than the first time when it first came out in 2020. And that kind of being a sensitive subject amongst the gamer community and the fans of the game, where there's a lot of people that love the story, loved how it played out, and there's a lot of us that either have mixed feelings or hated it completely. It's just a kind of a mixed bag where we don't know what to do with it, and Neil Druckmann, he don't give a fuck, which is fine. It's his game, it's his baby. But just kind of going into that, with this second season coming, if you have not played that second game, you are in for a world of shit. You are probably going to be super pissed at this show because it's supposed to play out just like the second game did, just like the first game did. And so prepare yourself to be ready to curse and hurl things at your TV if you have formed a deep connection with these characters just like I did, playing the games and everything. And so I wish you the best of luck at dealing with the trauma that will come with this second season, because it will piss you off and it will leave you questioning why things played out the way they did, but I'm not going to spoil it for you. So closing out the review of the second half of the first season, did it perfectly. There is little to no flaws with this whole thing, and I'm very much looking forward to the second season, even though the story is going to be heartbreaking to watch through a second time around. And I guess that's really all I have to say about the whole thing. If you enjoyed this review and my little notes on the subject, please leave those comments. I want to know what you guys have to say. Do you look forward to the second season? Did you love this show as much as a lot of people? Because there was a lot of people seeing it for the very first time. Probably some who didn't even know it was a video game. But we won't go into that one. But anyways, if you like this, please leave those comments, please leave those likes, and obviously if you feel so inclined, please subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it. So until next time, guys, I will see you later. Bye.